So we have a lot of stuff dealing with the afterlife, rabbits, and even a train that causes people to go insane. And yeah, I have a crink in my neck, so this is going to be an interesting one. Let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing my weekly watch list with a crink in my neck, and it really sucks, and I feel like I'm breaking my neck trying to look up at the camera right now, so bear with me. I'm going to try my best to do this whole thing, get out some new movies that you probably never heard of, because this is your boy. Your boy is going to give you movies that you've never heard anybody talk about, and I even picked one that one of you guys suggested, so it's going to be a fun one. Links to all of these movies on physical media will be down below, so you can wish list it or buy it later, you know, whenever is good for you. But yeah, let's get into it. First up, we have The Other Side from 2006. Now, this one's a little hard to find. Even if you look it up on IMDb, you have to search through like about 10 different movies called The Other Side. But I can tell you, this movie's on Pluto TV, so you can watch it on VOD any chance you get for absolutely free with, you know, advertisements, of course. And Henry Pittman, one of my viewers, thank you for suggesting this. This one's actually about a man named Samuel North who is escaping from hell. He was killed on the way to see his girlfriend, who he's been having a long distance relationship with, and is ready to settle down, and something bad happens to him, sending him to hell because of some previous thing that he did. He somehow escapes to find her, but she's missing, and he's also chased by hell's reapers, which are people who can switch bodies into dead people at any given moment, including him, which they're running around in dead bodies this whole movie. And the sort of lore behind it is kind of cool, actually. The Netherworld's trying to bring him back, and he's trying to find his girlfriend because, you know, love. But this one's directed by Greg Bishop, who also did Dance of the Dead and a movie called Siren, which is one of his most recent films. But yeah, I really kind of like this one. You're gonna have to lower your expectations. This is a movie that has aspirations to be a mainstream film because of the concept and the idea, but they had shoestring budget levels money. But their effects, as far as fighting and the things that they did in the movie, for its time, I'd say are pretty damn good. There is some gore, there is some shootouts, there's a lot of action in this movie. It's a little weird that some random guy is just gonna take up guns all of a sudden and just be a hero, breaking of reality, you know, moments in the film like that. But if you just kind of watch it from the perspective of, hey, this is gonna be kind of an interesting story, you might like it. But a lot of people are going to think this one's extremely low on the rewatch list or watch it all list, maybe even call it a 3 out of 10. But for me, it was kind of in the so bad it's good category, leaning into sometimes just really good, because I like the action and the ideas and the creativity that they did in this film, because they really do a lot of really cool ideas that I could see this movie being remade into a much better film. It is what it is, and I'm not trying to put down the film because I enjoyed my time watching it. I did laugh at it a few times, so no offense, Henry, but it is one of those films I think that people can enjoy in that level, you know, where it's so bad it's good, but also just kind of a fun action afterlife movie. And there's a lot of moments in the film that I was laughing at the dialogue, because by the end of the movie there's so many twists, you're just like, okay, I get it. But yeah, if you want to watch this one, it's up on Pluto. I would give it a 6 out of 10 on the so bad it's good, you know, rewatchability kind of, you know, scale. So if you like those kind of movies, this might be one for you. Up next, we have Hideway, which this one I was inspired to watch because I have recently just did a video before this on the movie Feed, which was by director Brett Leonard, which is a movie that they just put out on Blu-ray from Unearth Films. It's had a release before, but this is Unearth. I got to see it, and boy, you'll have to watch my review on that, but it made me interested enough to go back in his catalog because he was the director of this movie, Hideway from 1995, Lawnmower Man, Virtuosity, and a ton of other ones. So I was curious to see what those other films were like that I haven't seen in a while. So I picked Hideway, and this is actually based off a Dean R. Koontz novel that a lot of people feel like this movie really butchered. And I can't say that they're right or wrong because I never read the book, but apparently it's not one of Dean R. Koontz's best movies. My personal favorite was Phantoms. That was one of the first books I ever read of his, and they even made a movie that was killer as well. Yeah, this is on a different level, and it's using some of the visual effects of like Lawnmower Man in here. It's pretty interesting. So let me tell you what the story is about. This is about a family man named Hatch, who is played by Jeff Goldblum. He has a wife and he has a daughter who is played by Alicia Silverstone, but he gets into a car accident with his family and he dies for a lengthy period of time. But the doctors bring him back, and afterwards he starts having visions and strange nightmares. It's almost as if he's seeing through the eyes of a killer, a serial killer, one that involves his daughter at some point. Now, this movie gets a little wild. The visuals are just a little out of date. It does feel a little awkward seeing the Lawnmower Man in a movie like this because they try to do heaven and hell in this like Lawnmower Man, like electronic VR style. It's almost like Tron, you know, if you can envision that. So it is a little rough around the edges, but you know, for a 90s film, it really wasn't all that bad of a watch. Is it good? Is it great? No, but it's definitely really watchable, and it's one that you could probably laugh along with while watching it. Plus, Jeff Goldblum's in it, which I absolutely love, and Christine Lottie, who is in the show Evil. She plays the mom. Really great performances by everyone there. And we even get Jeremy Sisto, who plays the serial killer. And this guy throws himself on a knife. It's pretty funny shit. We were making jokes while we were watching this movie because Jeremy Sisto's character, he's like wearing shades in the movie and he looks like Neo, so we were making so many references to Neo. He just plays the part a little too much, and it was an earlier performance, so you can forgive him a little bit. I think he went on to do May a few years later, so that mixed with like Fear Factory, KMFDM, Frontline Assembly, Godflesh, and all these different bands, because it had like a pretty interesting soundtrack for the time. That propped up against his serious acting was interesting. And I'm not trying to be mean, it's just one of those movies that it's just so 90s that we had to take the piss out of it a little bit. But yeah, he goes and chases after the serial killer who eventually meets up with his daughter when she is out and about at a club, and then the guy gets a taste for wanting to kill the guy's daughter, and it's ridiculous, and we kind of enjoyed it a lot. I'd actually say on a so bad it's good scale, and especially a mainstream picture, this one's like a 7 or a 7.5, and that's a sliding scale with so bad it's good films, meaning most people would score it like a 4 or 5, but I have such love for it because it's so bad it's good that I give it a different scale. So, if that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, this one is not streaming anywhere, but you can rent it, and I think it's a fun watch to rent, but I will understand if you didn't want to. It's kind of cool seeing Jeff Goldblum play like 2 different characters in this one almost, and it kind of reminds me of one of his older performances called Mr. Frost. It's a little different. It's definitely try hard stuff in the 90s, and if you can dig that kind of stuff, this might be a good watch for you. Up next, we have Celia from 1989, and it is actually a folk horror film that I got out of this All Haunts Be Ours compendium of folk horror that was gifted to me by Resolution. Thank you, man. I'm trying to get to it. This was one in this mix here that was on the same disc is Allison's Birthday. So if you have this set, you can find it on there. This is a movie that is essentially an Australian film that's trying to do folk horror with these creatures that is a tale that is told in Australia, I guess, and a dash of like political ideologies like communism. So it's kind of like a Fernando Arrabal story that's supposed to be like really dark and upsetting through the eyes of a child, and it's based off of a story or actual event that happened in Australia where they were killing off rabbits because they considered them vermin, and the people kind of were upset because some people had, you know, pet rabbits that were domesticated and they were trying to kill off all of them. So this is kind of the story of that, this little girl who in the beginning of the movie loses her grandmother, who is pretty much the rock for her to kind of maintain being a good girl, so to speak. She sort of starts losing her mind and starts envisioning seeing creatures, which are the Habyas. These creatures that go in the middle of the night and steal people or their dogs and stuff. And they look like mermen, but like with snorkels. It's kind of weird, and it's really unsettling and creepy in some of the moments in this movie. Now, this one's probably going to be the lighter version of horror, so to speak. A lot of people feel that way. It's more of a drama, fantasy, and then a touch of horror. There's moments where grandma is sort of visiting this little girl who she's obviously not there, but she's doing odd things like scratching at a window in the middle of the night, waking up the little girl who's, you know, just dealing with life. Her father is like super obsessed about, you know, controlling everything in her life. A lot of people are comparing it to like Lord of the Flies, but with a female girl instead. And I really don't know what they mean. I think they just mean that it's a little dark and realistic, and the kids do some really dark and messed up things, not only to each other, but also to animals. There was a scene in the movie that kind of made me like, what the fuck? And I think they really did hurt the animal. I'm not 100% sure, but it made me turn away a little bit. So this one is not high on the number list here, but there is definitely some performances in here that are really good. Stuff like Leolo, or just movies that are dealing with real life, weird, awkward times, coming of age of a girl who's kind of rebellious. There's obviously some metaphors in there and a little bit of history thrown in from Australia. It's not a bad movie. It's just not what I was expecting. Now, unfortunately, I don't know anywhere you can watch it, but I will put a link down below for all of the movies in here that you can pick up on physical media, including the first movies and all of them. So check down there if you're interested. Up next, this one's a big one. Eden Lake from 2008. Many people have seen this movie and really adore it, and it was about time that I rewatch it again, and I debated whether I would put it in this series or not, but I felt like I got so many deep cuts in this particular watch list that maybe it'd be a good, you know, time to show people one that's a little bit more mainstream and maybe you might not have heard. So Eden Lake is a movie that is about a couple that goes to a lake in the English countryside for a romantic getaway, and it's shattered by an aggressive group of punk kids that are extremely dark and messed up and always causing problems. And at the beginning, it starts off kind of just annoying and unsettling, but then it gets to extremely dark, harrowing, unfair, and just horrible by the end of the movie. This is by far not the feel-good hit of the summer. Let me tell you that. This is not a movie you're going to want to watch if you're in a bad mood. Because this made me want to grab the children, and man, they are just horrendous in this movie. And you will be screaming at this TV, but you will also be exhilarated and just blown away at how tense and just intense this movie is. This is by director James Watkins, who just recently did a remake of that Speak No Evil movie, which I enjoyed, but this, Eden Lake, is much better than his newest film. It just hits on another level, but it's kind of got that same vibe about it, where family goes into a situation where it's not that great, and then things get worse and worse and worse until it's an all-out, you know, fight for survival in some of the most disgusting, dark, and unyielding ways. It really is a very harrowing movie. It's gonna make you angry, but you gotta see it. This one is on Prime Video, but yeah, it's up there if you want to check it out, or on Fubo. Highly recommend giving this one a watch. I'd say this one is at least an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. It's stellar. And then last but not least, we have another physical media called Death Train. This is from Hino Hideshi's Horror Theater, or Theater of Horror. Actually written a lot of manga books and is a big horror writer. These are some of his smaller stories that other directors have taken and making into an hour-long sort of special. These are like episodes. There's a whole box set of these actually that you can pick up, and I'll put a link down below to that box set. I think they just re-released it. It went from $250 down to like a lot cheaper. If you're interested in Japanese horror from manga horror greats like Hino Hideshi or Hideshi Hino, then this might be for you. But this one is a story about a group of 3 friends in Japan. It's called Death Train. It's from 2004. They go on this train and they experience a strange flash, and all of a sudden it feels like something happened to the train, and then suddenly it goes straight into fever dream territory with all of these different girls. Now, they have some conversations in the beginning of the movie, or film, I should say, because it's an hour-long film. They have conversations that sort of bleed into their realities as they're kind of experiencing it. So stuff that they said early on is included in their fever dream later on, and you start to realize that all these strange things are happening for a reason, and something might have happened, and you probably can guess what that is, and you will when you see this movie, but for the sake of not spoiling anything, I ain't gonna say it. But this is from director Kazuyuki Sakamoto, who is actually pretty popular for doing a bunch of cursed videos that are called Honto ni Ata Noroi no Video, which these are just called caught on tape cursed videos, and he's been doing them since 2002 all the way to today. I was looking up to see where I could maybe find these. I wasn't like blown away by his director work here, but he does a fairly decent job of doing that sort of psychological fever dream kind of thing going on in this movie. It really does a lot of different techniques and things to kind of make this movie pop. It's not my favorite in the franchise of these series, but it's not a bad one, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I would say this one's probably about a 6 out of 10, and you may be able to find Death Train on YouTube, but I can't guarantee it'll have subtitles, so just a forewarning. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it's hard to really kind of tell you as much as going on in here, but just understand, if you like fever dream stories that are psychological and messed up with, you know, a touch of different types of horror thrown in, there's a lot of really weird body horror and gore and things in this movie that should appeal to quite a few people. But it's done on a very tiny budget, and it's really shot on like digital video, so it looks like a digital video. But yeah, I'd give it 6 out of 10. Not bad. It's an enjoyable episode. So, but yeah, that's everything, guys. That's everything I watched this week for my weekly watch list. I watched more than that, but these are the ones I wanted to pick to talk about here for this week's watch list. I'll do one next week as well, and I'm going to be doing a live tonight if I can get this up and done. So this one might not be as cut as all the other videos that I do, but hopefully I'll get it done in time. So, but thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. I really appreciate you guys. We've been killing it, guys. Like, you guys have been not only giving me like great movies to watch, keep them coming. We are building a really great community here of people who are seeing films that not a lot of people talk about. And I absolutely love that. That's like one of my favorite things about doing this watch list now, is that I can watch these movies and now we have an audience to share them with. So hell yeah, thank you. If you enjoyed this video or found it of any value, please hit the like and subscribe button, you son of a bitch. But other than that, thank you for coming by, and I'll see you next time. As always, long live the void.